The October 15, 2020 meeting for the Social Circle Board of Education is called to order. First on our agenda is the prayer followed by the pledge of allegiance. I would ask all that would like, please stand with us as we pray the Lord's Prayer together and remain standing for the pledge of allegiance. Thank you. Next, we have the approval of our agenda. Dr. Hooker, are there any changes? Do I have a motion to accept the agenda as presented? Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. All those opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Next, we have the minutes. These minutes are from our last board meeting in September. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes as presented? Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Following right along on our agenda, we have the public participation piece. And we don't have as many people here this evening, and I know Ms. Gibbs knows the rules by now. And so I'll just remind you to state your name and who you represent and your address, and then you have 5 minutes once we begin. So if you'll come up and give us the podium, Ms. Gibbs.
Our circle living in Covington.
Doris, can you click turn the mic on? Take on and off, make sure.
Okay, sorry. My name is Doris. From Social Circle living in Covington, and I represent Courageously Concerned. Thank you to the Board of Education for allowing myself and others to publicly state the truth that the term Redskins is derogatory to Native Americans and has a history that is questionable at least. I appreciate the opportunity to speak, and I feel the need to continue to speak. Like Alexander Hamilton via Lin-Manuel Miranda, I'm not throwing away my shot. I respectfully followed the chain of command and was promised a conversation, an active conversation with both parties present to discuss this matter. I'm waiting for this conversation, that way we can all move forward, hopefully with change in mind. There's some minimal changes, non-financial changes we can make. For example, removing the terminology from non-essential places, removing the wording from websites, and renaming resident period. Winston Churchill once said, "To improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often." We are asking for a conversation that propels us to a potential, eventual, positive change. So far within this mascot topic, each side has had a chance to speak. However, there has not been a chance to engage. A conversation is an engagement with an exchange of ideas. In addition, I'm asking the Board of Education and the entire school system to have this conversation and to invest in the social, emotional learning component that we said we value. Again, to improve is to change, to be perfect is to change often. Change is unpredictable and uncomfortable, but it's usually those changes that are often the most necessary. For example, I imagine the difficulty of Abraham Lincoln when he penned the Emancipation Proclamation set to release on the first year of the year 1863. I also imagine the discomfort of President Lyndon B. Johnson as he signed the Civil Rights Act on 101 years later on July 2nd, 1964. And yes, change can be costly, but in no way I'm trying to break the bank. I don't know about you, but I would much rather pay $100 now than pay $100,000 later. You see, if we fail to make change now, the cost exponentiates. If you look around our nation, it is you and I that are paying the $100,000 because the people who came before us did not change. They did not pay that $100. It has become our burden to bear. It is not dealing with change that becomes catastrophic, explosive even. To improve is to change. Be perfect is to change often. You cannot schedule change. You cannot schedule justice. And unfortunately, it's not always part of a 5-year plan. But they are watching. They. Our children, our brothers, our sisters, neighbors, the community, the state, and the nation. And what do they see? Are they watching the way we respectfully disagree? Are they watching us value social justice? Are they watching us have tough conversations? Or do they see us not having the tough conversations? Do they simply see us valuing tradition over change? And what will we do? Our 12-year-olds, 15-year-olds, 18-year-olds, even 30-something-year-olds will look back and reflect on what we did and what we did not do. And what will they say? What will they see? Board members, superintendent, this is where you determine what we will see in our near futures. Winston Churchill has told us already, we need to improve for change, because to be perfect is to change often. No change, no improvement. On February 21st, 2020, Dr. Hooker told the entire community, quote, as a community, we must continue to be flexible during these times of uncertainty. This school year, we will show the community, the state, and the nation that we are social circle strong because we are SCCS all in, end quote. Although this was in terms of the medical pandemic that our community faces that we have met head on, we can use that same SCCS spirit to face social injustices. So we take your charge, Dr. Hooker. To improve is to change, and we look forward to this conversation. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Gibbs. Okay, moving right along, we have the board comment section, and I do have a few comments tonight. And this is regarding the mascot as well. Recently, as I'm sure most of you know, Dr. Hooker released a statement from our governance team, and they let everybody know that we're going to remain the Social Circle Redskins. The statement touched on multiple reasons for this decision, and soon after we released the statement, the Walton Tribune published an editorial questioning our reasoning. And believe me, we appreciate the Tribune's coverage of our board meeting. We do understand and appreciate that everyone has an opinion. Some match it, some are different. That's fine. However, our governance team wants to point out that the editorial in question completely ignored one of the primary reasons for remaining the Redskins. The reason that was ignored in the editorial was the financial reason. It's very, very expensive to change a mascot. And let me remind you that we're in the middle of a budget crisis brought about by the pandemic. And we need a new school. It's in our strategic plan that the community agrees on. On top of that, the vast majority of our local community does not want to see this change. And they're the taxpayers that will be paying for it. So put yourself in our shoes. If you put yourself in our shoes, I'm sure you'll understand that we simply don't feel like we can spend the money to change a mascot, and the taxpayers who will be paying for it ultimately don't want to see the change. Next, we'll go to the finance section, and I'll ask Mr. Cross to come up.
Good evening. Tonight we will be discussing both the June 2020 financial report as well as the August 2020 financial report. We'll begin with the June 2020. So this is the unaudited final fiscal year 2020 financial report as reported to the Department of Education. I have started work on the financial statements and the Department of Audits has reached out. They want to begin field work in December this year with hopes to finalize our audit in January. We'll begin with the general fund. So with 100% of our fiscal year complete, we ended the year at 103% of general fund budgeted revenues and at 96% of general fund budgeted expenditures. We did end the year with a small operating loss of about $60,000. The original 2020 budget estimated a loss of about $1.575 million, so we were able to end the year much better than originally estimated. This leaves ending fund balance for fiscal year 2020 at a little over $3,087,000. So for the 2021 budget, if you'll remember, when we began estimating that, we used a fund balance of $3 million. So we do begin 2021 with a little more than $87,000 more than our original estimate. On the next page, we have the school activity funds. State law requires that each principal report on receipts and expenditures of activity funds held at the school to the local Board of Education at least quarterly. So we'll include this statement as part of the financial report going forward quarterly. School activity funds include school district and student activity funds. This can range from grade level lab fees to school-wide fundraising accounts, as well as athletics at both the middle and high school. Most accounts help fund and support additional instructional costs at our schools, while some operate via user fees, such as our athletic programs and aftercare program. These are considered enterprise operations. The report includes the total and in detail of each school. Total revenue for all accounts at the end of 2020 was $547,488, and total expenses were $507,324. Ending fund balance of all school activities accounts combined was a little over $291,000. Next are our special revenue funds. Due to the COVID closures, all federal grants received extensions to September 30th, 2021. And also all remaining funds, 100%, will be awarded as carryover with the 2021 grant awards, so we won't lose any of the awarded funds. Because we would carry over all funds into 21, we ended all grants at June 30th, and the final completion reports have been done and completed. Next is our pre-K fund. The pre-K fund has received and expended 100% of the state funds that were budgeted. The pre-K reconciliation report for 2020, which is due November 15th to the Georgia Department of Early Care and Learning, has already been submitted, and we received recently the report that it was accepted and no funds had to be returned. Next, we have our school food service fund. Revenues collected totaled 107% of budgeted revenues, and expenses represent 114% of the budgeted expenditures. At the end of the fiscal year, we did end the year with a deficit of a little over $48,000. Later in the meeting, you'll be asked to approve a transfer from the general fund to cover both this deficit as well as the negative cash balance that remained in this fund of about $69,000. The loss is primarily due to COVID school closures, which began March 13th. The high school did reopen the kitchen March 24th to prepare bagged meals to deliver along the bus routes. The delivery started with serving about 467 students versus an average of 900 when schools were open. So we did see a decrease in revenue because of those reasons. We also had less days we served the bagged meals as compared to the number of days we would have been in school. We also had increased costs related to having to purchase prepackaged food, which has a higher cost, and an increase in paper products and supplies that were needed to transport the meals. Lastly, full salary and benefits were paid to employees throughout the closure. And on the last page, we have our SPLOST fund. SPLOST collections received in June totaled $144,000 from Walton County and $1,900 from Newton County. This equates to about a 16% increase for Walton and about a 10.2% for Newton. July receipts we received for June collections were also accrued back to 2020. These totaled about $149,000 for Walton and about $1,900 for Newton County. Overall, for fiscal year 2020, SPLOST collections increased about 7.6% for both SPLOST funds from 2019 to 2020. The SPLOST fund received 111% of budgeted revenues and spent about 80% of the total budgeted fund expenditures. Are there any questions about the June financial report?
Hearing none, do I have a motion to accept the monthly financial report as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously.
Next, we have the August 2020 financial report. Beginning with the general fund, with 17% of the year complete, we have received 12% of our budgeted fund revenues and have spent 19% of our general fund budgeted expenditures. Keep in mind we have several expenses which are due annually in July, including insurance premium, annual instruction, website licenses. So that is why you'll see in some categories a little more than 17%, notably in mainly maintenance and operations and other support services. Currently, expenditures exceed revenues by $1.3 million. Keeping in mind our local property taxes are due in December and received in January, so we'll generally see this negative number until around that time.
Do I have a motion to exit executive session and bring in a regular session? Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. And just go into the personnel recommendations from our superintendent. We have 2 of those for classified staff. And let's see. We'll take them both on the same slate here. The recommendations are as follows. We have Rosie Davis as a primary school part-time school nutrition worker, and Emma Brown as a substitute school nutrition worker. Do I have a motion to accept these recommendations from our superintendent? Do I have a second?
I second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Anyone opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. And do I have a motion to adjourn? Do I have a second? All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, please say aye. Motion carries unanimously. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you.